Hey there, good morning. It's Tuesday, 10 a.m. So your favorite host, Tim and Tim, we're back again for another fun episode of Making Moves in Multifamily. Tim, how the hell are you doing today?
Not bad. Not bad at all. Can't complain. Still, maybe my jeans are a little tighter today, though. So, um,
You have a good
too,
Thanksgiving?
too many mashed potatoes. It
Sticks right to your ribs, kid.
really does.
All
Really
the
does.
butter.
It wasn't just Thursday. I think it was also Friday, Saturday, and Sunday that.
Dude, I'm not lying to you. I literally had Thanksgiving because it was just Danielle and I. So I made a whole spread. I made a 12-pound turkey for Danielle and I on the
Damn,
rotisserie. I
dude.
sent you that video. And we had mashed sweet potatoes and rolls and all the things. And I had a Thanksgiving plate 5 times after Thanksgiving. I was like, all right, I'm getting kind of sick of turkey at this point.
Yeah.
But all right. So this week, we wanted to talk a little bit about tax planning. So gotta feed that baby. Yeah. She's chowing like a pregnant woman. um, so this week we're talking about tax planning. As many of you may know, and maybe don't know, but everyone's favorite thing in real estate, depreciation. The cost segregation studies that include the bonus depreciation on our 5-year phase out schedule. So, what does that mean? Last year we had 100% bonus depreciation in year one. This year for 2023, we have 80% bonus depreciation. Next year it goes down to 60, then 40, then 20, then 0. So it's on a 5-year phase out schedule. This is important because it's going to start impacting your ultimately your tax returns. So there's a few things that we wanted to bring to attention and things to think about is if you are a sponsor of some of these deals and you're buying property kind of late in a quarter, like late in the year, like in Q3, Q4. Part of the depreciation entry, right, from your CPA is going to include how many days in service the property was. So if you bought a property January 1st, you'd get a lot more depreciation because it was in service from January 1st until 12/31. So 365 days of useful life, right? But if you buy a property December 1st, there's only 31 days of useful life. So what they would do is they would take, okay, well, if you were allowed, if you were going to get like $10,000 in depreciation for the entire year, but you only owned it for 1/12 of that year, or let's use $12,000, right? So if you bought it in January and you were going to get a $12,000 write off for depreciation, you'd get that full write off because it's been in service for the full 12 months. If you bought the property in December 1st, then you're only in useful life for 1/12 of that $12,000. So your tax write off would only be $1,000 for that tax year, right? Now, those are exaggerated numbers just to kind of prove and illustrate a point, but some things that you can do in order to kind of figure out what you're going to do in order to increase that bonus depreciation is spend as much money in CapEx as you can. So when you get a cost segregation study done at the end of the year, they're going to look at your receipts for what was paid. So if you have the opportunity to pay for work to be done, pay for it now. So, I know a lot of corporations do this too, right? Like they shift revenue and expenses in order to maximize maximize their NOI, return of equity, or ROE. They're strategically moving money around in order to show more income or show less income. So obviously, you're going to have to decide that for yourself and for your investors. But one of the deals that we own, we had made the decision not to pay out any distributions in 2023. The property is doing fine, right? But we decided, hey, because we bought this later in the year, there's going to be less depreciation, there's less bonus. We're getting ahead of the work. We're spending a ton of money this year. Let's maximize our year one write off for depreciation by not making a distribution on purpose and also spending as
Yep.
much money as possible in CapEx so that we can get as big of a write off as possible. So that's just kind of some of the things that are kind of going through our head and how we're actively managing and taking consideration tax planning and how that impacts our investors and ourselves and all that other kind of stuff.
Yeah, Tim, really good point, by the way, because every now and then, investors are kind of like, you know, I want my distribution, I want my distribution. And I do too. I'm an investor in some things as well, and I want my distribution. But I also I also am in and out of deals, so I want that maximized tax benefit, right? So, I kind of have an appreciation for what you're talking about there. It's like, hey, we can pay you, but if we
Mhm.
don't, here's the benefit. And by the
Yeah.
way, we can pay you in January,
Yeah.
right? We
Yeah.
can pay you in January. So your net for the 6 month period is the same. But this way, we're going to give you an additional, tax benefit as well. So, it's kind of interesting that you're talking about that, because I do have an appreciation when folks are looking at not just the cash outlay, but also, what we can do from a tax benefit perspective as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's what everybody loves about investing in real estate, right? Is getting those write-offs and reducing their taxable income. Well, this is one way to do it, right? I mean, how do you increase your write-off? Well, when you take a distribution from a property, that's counted as income. The
Yeah,
income reduces the amount of depreciation, like your net depreciation is going to be, the net between your depreciation and what money you've taken out of the deal. Well, if you don't take any money out of the deal on purpose in that tax year, then you're going to get 100% of the write-off and you're going to benefit elsewhere, right? Because you're getting those tax write-offs and depreciation and all those other things, which is going to save you money, right? Because there's a lot of people out there that need the depreciation so badly. Well, then you can have your cake and eat it too if you're willing to be patient and wait, just another couple months. And like, you know, most of our deals are 7%, 8% preferred return. Most people invest 50 to $100,000, and a quarterly distribution to an individual might be like what, $1,500. It's like,
yeah, maybe, yeah,
I mean, no, I'm not saying that $1,500 isn't a lot of money, but is it life changing money? For most people, no. I mean, most people's rent isn't even that cheap, right? And
yeah,
depending on where you're, I mean, your mortgage is probably not even that cheap. Do you really think that one mortgage payment not getting a distribution 90 days earlier is going to change your life? If it does, you probably shouldn't have invested that money in the first place.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because like, let's play that back a second. Like, Tim, if you came to me, if you were the operator and you came to me and you were like, "Hey, I can pay you over the next 6 months. I can pay you the $3,000, or I can accrue it, pay it to you in January, and deploy that capital across the deal for extra bonus depreciation." So, of that $3,000, put it in simple terms, of that $3,000, you're going to keep X amount more, right? Because we were able to increase your tax benefit, right?
Yeah, it's all
Um,
timing, right? It's all
right.
timing. I mean, sure, 2023 is not going to look good. That's the point. And then in 2024, it's going to look great, right? I mean, now
Yeah.
now you're going to be saying in 2024, well, dang, I need more depreciation. Well, like, it is a, rob Peter to pay Paul scenario, but you just try to think about these things.
Yeah. Well, and it's like any business, right? It's like the best use of cash on hand, right?
Yeah.
Um, where is the best use of cash on hand deployed? Um, and hey, here's the good news. If we just have endless amounts of cash, maybe you don't need to consider these things. But when you're trying to make sure that you're maximizing every nickel. Quite frankly, that's what I like to look at. And quite frankly, I like to think that's what people invest with us for and say, you guys go do this, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'd like to think that's what we're doing to earn our keep, if so to speak.
That's actually a really fair point. I'm glad that you said that because sometimes it is not appreciated from the other way around because it's not really known, like it's not seen what happens on a day-to-day basis. Like,
Right.
these conversations that you and I have that we publish to everybody, these are conversations that we have of decisions that we have to make every single week or every single day about I mean, asset management questions, right? I mean, like, how are we going to do this? Where's the money going to go from this? How are we paying those bills? When are we paying those bills? Who's going to do the cost segregation? Who's doing
Yeah.
the tax, the K-1 filings? Do they have all the, I mean, there's so much stuff that happens behind the scene, and
Yeah.
that's why people invest with us. And, you know, for what it's worth, I'm an LP in a lot of deals too, right? And some that are not even my own. And when I'm looking at, I'm like, well, I have an appreciation for, I know what's happening behind the scenes, but I can also relate with the sentiment of like, I haven't heard anything in 90 days. I don't have any money. Like nothing's happening. Well, it's like well, that's kind of the other point about real estate, right? Is out of sight, out of mind. Is like, your money's working, it's earning interest, it's going up in value. Hopefully, you're executing your business plan effectively, and you're going to be able to increase equity, right? I mean, that's the whole
Yeah.
game plan. But being able to look at it every single day is not the point of real estate. It's the point of knowing that you're investing for the long-term return instead of seeing those incremental, hits or benefits or whatever.
Yeah, man, the asset management piece, and Tim, it's funny you bring that up because I think you saw, guys, I sent out an update to our GP team on a deal that we had going on, and a lot of times I'm the one sending these updates out to folks, so it's real easy to assume that I'm doing the work, right? But there's a lot of work that goes into this, so it's really cool when you're able to like, hey, wait a minute, like I sent this out, but here's the guys who did the work over here, right? Like,
Right.
um, so I love being able to like call it out and like give those guys like a pat on the back because man, it really is huge. It's a big deal to manage assets.
Yeah. It doesn't matter if
From
it's 19 units or 500 units. I mean, the work is the same. Like everything that, the taxes, the insurances, the roof repair, like, the lease, like the business model is all the same. It's how many people you're dealing with changes, and the amount of everything changes, but the principles are still the same. So, I mean, Tim and I have said it before, but that's why it's so important to cut your teeth on smaller deals, learn how to effectively manage them, do proper asset management, execute the business plan, and then provide returns for the investors.
Yeah, I think I think I said this morning, but I'll say it here because we're getting off a little bit here because this is supposed to be 80% bonus
I
depreciation.
know.
We're talking, but that's okay. This is what we
It's
do,
all
right? But guys, like I just want to point one thing out, because I actually have a mentor, and Mike, you and I can debate this, man. But I have a mentor who's like, you make your money on the buy, and I'm like, I don't disagree with you, but I think you lose your money on poor asset management as well. You can negotiate the hell out of a deal and walk into tons of equity and, excuse the phrase, piss it all away because you don't know how to manage the property.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, guys, we're seeing a lot of that, by the way. We're seeing a ton of that going on. We're seeing people who overpaid, but we're also seeing people who negotiated really good deals who have lost value,
Mm-hmm.
primarily because of asset management. So I always tell people, I'm like, asset management's where the money's made or lost.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Oh, totally agree. Yeah,
You know,
even William Deal agrees too. So, yeah, I mean that. Yes, all of it is important. Buying right, managing right,
right.
selling right. Lending, doing everything right is important. But you can't asset manage your way out of overpaying it for. Well, I guess you could. Can you? Can you asset
You
manage your
could,
way out of overpaying for a deal? I guess you could, right? In
yeah.
some way. I guess maybe that wasn't
It
the
it
best
de-
phrase.
it depends, right? Like, guys, here's a conversation Tim and I have had with another mentor of ours, right? Like, people will say there's some deals that Tim and I buy, and we're not the only ones. I'm just using us as an example. There's some deals that we buy that if you looked at it on a T12 basis, you'd look at us and say you overpaid for that deal,
Oh gosh,
right?
yeah.
Right. So you would look at us and say you overpaid for that, and I would say, and we would look at you and go, no, because we bought it here. We know it can be here if we asset manage it correctly. Yeah, we overpaid, but we asset managed our way into what we believe our performance value is going to
Mhm.
be, right? So I'm kind of playing with words here a little bit, but if you look at it on paper, what all the gurus have taught people over the last few years, right? Like what you should pay based on a T12. Well, sometimes you pay a 2 cap on the T12 because when you're done with it, you're going to end up with a 10 cap, right?
We've
Um,
paid a 1 cap before going in.
no.
Yeah.
How'd we do on that?
We did okay.
Yeah. So, um,
Yeah, so, all right. I know we love to go down tangents, but all right, tax planning. So, for all you people that are, for all you guys out there that are sponsors that, do what we do, use this. Hopefully you're already on communicating with your CPA. I know that I've already done that for all of our deals, which took up like 2.5 weeks of my time, was getting all the information over to our CPA. They are looking at all of our new deals. They're looking at all of our old deals. They're looking at the general ledgers and making sure nothing changed. the CPAs are getting prepped in order to do our K1 so that we can get them out on time.
Yeah.
The only thing that will be outstanding come the end of the year is going to be the year-end financials and a cost segregation study. So use this as like a trigger or check mark or like a reminder of like contact your CPA and get everything that you need to over them ASAP. Don't wait till January 1st. Don't wait till February 1st, because that's literally when everybody waits till. And then when the CPAs are swamped, everyone's pissed because no one's getting the K1s on time.
Yeah. Hey guys, by the way, speaking of patting on the back, got to pat that guy on the back. Is that right? Pat that guy on the back because he leads all the tax stuff and coordination with our CPA for Vive and our deals. And dude, he's been Vitaly. You've been on this. I mean, like 4 months already. Like, I mean,
Something like that.
he started talking to me about this in the summer. He started coordinating with the CPA months ago. We had a
That's
kickoff
right,
call.
because it's the CPA was
Yeah,
like, "Yeah, thank you for reaching out in August," but
yeah,
they're like, "We're not even gonna look at any of this stuff until after the 10/15 deadline for, like,
yeah,
tax returns and all that stuff." So then it was like, Halloween around Halloween, we had our first phone call. We got on,
yeah,
we, like, talked about all of the deals. They wanted to know, like, what was going on. Did we refinance? Did we sell? Did we buy new stuff? And we kinda went over everything that happened that year, and then they were like, okay, cool. Well, here's everything that you need to send to us and like get on it now so that we can actually get everything out to you on time. I was like,
yeah.
cool, this is great.
Yeah, and I think he laid out some things for us on that call, and Vitaly just mentioned that the date just kind of flew by there. But what did he say? He was like, if you get it to me before February 1st, is
Yeah.
that what it was?
Yeah.
Yeah. He was like,
Yeah.
everybody waits till February 1st, and he's like,
Yep.
but if you get it to me before that,
Yeah. He actually said to me, and I'll quote, he said, January is actually a slow period for the CPAs because
yeah,
everybody waits to the end of January, beginning of February to get everything to the CPA. Well, he's like, well, you guys are already going to have all your investors are going to be set up in the portal. We're going to verify that your books are correct at the end of Q3, which they're already working on now. We're going to verify that we have all the social security numbers and the tax numbers and all that kind of stuff. And he was like, as soon as the financials are done, hopefully by like the 10th or 15th of January, and we send it over, he was like, then we're done. Like, we're done with everything. And he said the cost segregation study, which is literally one journal entry, takes them, I don't know, an hour at best. He's like, I can make one journal entry, hit the button, and you're done. And he was like, I would be surprised if he was like, if I can't get you all of your case, if you get me all of these things by this time, I would be surprised if I couldn't get you all of your K1s by February 1st. I was like,
yeah,
I was floored.
and that was an eye-opening conversation, guys, because we had a conversation last year. I think we just didn't
But it was in
maybe we didn't.
December.
Yeah, and that thank you. And then in 2023, as we're trying to get through K1s, I think we got our last K1s out in
August,
July, August.
July or August, something like that.
Yeah, like, and I know in some of the deals I'm an LP in, I got my last K1s from other operators. I think my last one came right at the end of August. And by the way, I think I had no, it was 1st of September because I had what, it was an October deadline or something.
Yeah.
Um, I can't remember.
Well,
I just
September 15th is the September 15th is the deadline to file. Oh,
company.
dang. Is it companies? Yeah, September 15th, the deadline to file companies, and October 15th is the deadline to file personal.
Yeah, we may have switched that, but either way,
No, no, no. It's definitely because March
yeah,
15th is for K1 deadline. So then you
yeah, there
add
you go.
6 months, you get to September, and your personal return is always due in April. Add 6 months for an extension due in October.
Yeah, so like I literally didn't get mine till right up towards that September timeframe, and I think I filed my personal returns into September. I mean, so I get it. Like in Vitaly, and I get it. Like when's the last time you filed taxes on time?
I never file on time, but I'm definitely trying not to file on October 15th again.
Yeah, we definitely hear you, folks, when you're like, hey, where's my K1? We definitely understand. It's frustrating for sure.
Yeah. And it's not that I haven't been thinking about it already for 3 months.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you credit again because not only have you've been thinking about 2024 for 3 months, 4 months. You were saying back in February, March, April, like, man, we have to figure this out. Like
Oh,
when
yeah.
we weren't getting K1s in April and May, you were like, man, this is a pain in the ass. We got to figure this out.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
because
I got a baby on the way, so I'm not gonna have the time to be able to do all that in January, February this year.
yeah. Well, and right, like I don't want to feel. I don't. I'm gonna say this. I
I
don't
wouldn't
mind
wish that
hearing.
on anybody, Tim.
Yeah, I don't mind hearing from my investors, so don't take this that way. But I don't want to receive those calls in April and May either.
Yeah, no.
If you want to call me and ask me how the deal's going, like let's chat. But I really don't like those like where's my K1 conversations.
Yeah. Those are never fun.
Yeah,
But hey, like really at the end of the day, that's why we're talking about this stuff today.
yeah,
Because some
yeah.
people might not have thought about it. And we're not perfect. I mean, we make mistakes and things. Maybe we're gonna have some extensions or whatever on things. I mean, some things are just out of our control. But we are doing what we can in order to make sure that we provide the best service possible for our investors, right? I mean, that's the forefront of everything that we do is for our investors, right? Is it the best time to sell? Is it the best time to refinance? What do the returns look like? What's this insurance look like? Moving all of our insurance policies around over the last 6 months. That's
Ugh.
all to benefit the deals and the investors. Like all of this, it's like self-inflicted, right? Self-inflicted work in order to optimize everything that we're doing. How to optimize it and get the most amount of value out of every opportunity that we have our hands in, right? And a lot of that's not seen, and we try to communicate it as best as we can. But you're not going to be able to see everything behind the curtains because it's just too much.
You work on all the fun stuff. You really do. Like
I know.
I was, he's mentioning the insurance and what we've been doing there. Like he's been leading that up for us as well. And what's funny, Tim, is I literally had a call with a guy that we both know who's been doing this stuff for a long time yesterday. And I mentioned to him, he was like, "What are you guys doing to like address insurance?" I was like, "Well, we're moving everything under one broker going out to the market." He's like, "That's a pain in the ass, ain't it?" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, it is."
Tim's like, I don't know. Why don't you go ask him?
Well, actually, I was like, I'm not even the one doing it. It's a pain in the ass. So,
Just thinking about it's a pain in the ass.
no kidding.
Oh,
I
geez.
was, I'm on those text streams. Like we're literally texting about insurance last night at what, like 11 o'clock?
11:30 at night, talking about
Yeah,
insurance last night at
yeah.
11:30. I was like, what are we
With our
doing?
with our broker, by the way. Like
Yeah.
she was texting us back as well. Um, so anyway, asset management, guys, it's fun.
Yeah.
But bonus depreciation, I got to be honest. I mean, that's the tax guy. When people ask me like, what kind of depreciation can I expect? I asked Vitali.
It's
So
always a range.
yeah, it's it's always a rage. It depends.
It depends. It depends. Some deal. Hey, like Mississippi, for example, we're not going to deploy really any capex. So we'll get a cost segregation done basically the day that we buy it, and have those K1s out the door. Those ones will definitely be done by February 1st.
Yeah, yeah. And looking forward to getting that one closed out. By the way.
Yeah. So, oh dang, I was just about to say something and I lost my train of thought.
So, hey guys, like really, really good conversation here. I know tax and bonus depreciation seems, maybe like a boring topic, but honestly, it's one of the biggest benefits. And I don't want to say, I'm not going to say too much because I'm not going to give too much away here, but I will say that one of my biggest complaints, like 4 years ago, before I was able to claim reps, right? Even though I've been doing real estate for a while, my wife and I had a really good year in W-2 world, her with her bonuses, me with my bonuses, stuff like that. And then come tax time, I looked at like what we paid in taxes, right? We paid in taxes that year like 3 times the median income in this country, 3 times. And I looked at it, I'm like, holy shit, we just paid 3 people's salary to the federal government. And I was like, this is ridiculous. Now, obviously, some might say, hey, good on you even being in that situation, right? To
That's
have to
fair.
pay that. And that's fair. At the same time, like I gotta be honest, kind of felt like I worked my ass off that year for that. And I'm like, I'd like to keep more of what I make. Um, so that's one of the benefits of real estate, right? Is we get to keep more of what we make. We get to legally realize what's available to us to help us keep more money in our own pockets.
Yeah,
And
use the tax code as it's written.
yeah, and that's kind of what this is all about. So it's really nice when you have a partner, you have an operator, who's cognizant of the ways to maximize, legally maximize the benefit to you and your investor. If the
So
IRS is listening,
So,
legally optimize.
it's funny that you say that though, because I feel like I'm constantly like whenever we do operating agreements and stuff, I'm like, no, Tim, you need to do this, and I need to do this, and we need to change all these LLCs all around, and it's all for tax optimization. Because you're just like, screw it, I don't care. Like, I'll just pay the tax. I'm like, hell no, I'm not paying any taxes. Let me figure this out.
up
So
to up to a
that's super
point, right?
important for me, and I keep track of it for both of us.
Yeah, he does. He does. Because there's parts where there's parts where I'm like, I don't care. Like,
Yeah.
just freaking sign the
I know
thing.
you don't care, but we have to do this. It's the right way to do it.
And but what's funny is I say I don't, but then I got my tax returns. I mentioned finally got my tax returns done, and I looked at and I'm like, holy crap!
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I
Hey,
paid
so we
way
got
less than that one time.
yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Will Sanders, I believe I've never done any kind of loans like this before, but I believe what you would be interested in getting is called a 1099 INT, and it's basically a 1099 for short-term interest. If there's no principal pay down, you're just going to report the interest earned on your investment, whether it's loaning the money to a hard money flipper or whatever that looks like. But you should be getting a 1099 INT, I believe.
yeah. I don't
Um,
know. I haven't really done a lot with the lending side of it. So
no, no. All right, I got a question for you, Tim. What do you think? So we're going into an election year, a year from basically today. What do you think is going to happen with cost segregations? Because if I remember correctly, Trump is the one that implemented the cost segregation with 100% bonus depreciation. And the economy boomed from that because everyone was reinvesting and moving money around. And it was really good spur for the economy. What do you think if it's just hypothetically, if Biden wins again, what happens? Or if Trump wins in 2024, what do you think is going to happen?
yeah, good. Yeah, that's a good question. Like, if
It's almost a would you rather?
yeah, I mean, well, one, I can't. I don't. I'm not even going to go there. So, loaded question, right? Because it's not because it's
Super
really
loaded. I give
because
you a
it's
lot of softballs in the day, but this is a fastball
yeah
right down
because
the pipe.
because it's really not all about just the guy in the Oval Office, right? Because
Mhm.
it's going to depend on who's sitting in the House and who's sitting in the Senate, right? Or that's the same thing. So anyway, um, Congress and Senate. Anyway, so it kind of depends, right? I mean, if Biden wins and we're like all Republican across the board, with the exception of the president, then I could see them rolling something else back out.
Mhm.
Especially because you read a lot of these things talking about how the real estate market has suffered, and some say it's crashing or whatever, which I do not agree with at all. By the way, guys. So I think they're going to want to see some sort of stimulus investment into the real estate world, and quite personally, I would rather see a stimulus package of some sort that encourages people like us to invest rather than the government, imp- you know, put money into real estate in
But
some
yeah,
way.
because that just hurts inflation again.
Right. So, I think they will do something to bring back some of the bonus depreciation. Personally,
Mm. Yeah. Yeah,
um,
I'm in agreement with you there. I was talking to our CPA, not recently, but maybe a couple months ago, and he goes to all the CPA things, and that was what he had mentioned was part of the CPA chatter world is everyone's been talking about cost segregations and how those are going to be impacted by the election, if any at all. So I don't have any predictions either. I mean, I'm hopeful that they reinstate it, obviously for selfish reasons.
yeah.
But I can't think of a different way that you could incentivize people to invest into real estate, which spurs the economy without printing money.
Yeah, I think there's a nice blend where like I don't think we need to drop rates to 3% again.
No.
But I think there's a nice blend where you can get rates back to 5.5%, something like that, but also incentivize investment through things like tax strategies.
Yes.
Um, and then not hand out a ton of free cheap money.
Mhm.
Um, and I would like to see a blend, right? I'm a little bit of a middle guy, right? I mean,
Mhm.
because my biggest complaint about the government, it's always like over here, and I'm kind
Yeah,
of
yeah,
like
it's
in
too
here.
my mother-in-law is from England, and they have multiple parties in England. Like, I think
Yeah,
there's like 4 or 6 parties, and she always has said she just it doesn't and even when I worked in my W-2 world corporate career, we had, 60% of the employees lived in London, right? Because we were an
yeah.
international company, and even every time we talked to them about it, they're just like, "It doesn't make sense to me because you guys are just so far like one way or the other." Like, it's
Well,
damned if you do, damned if you don't. And they're like, that's kind of like what they love about Parliament and everything over in England is that there are so many options, and it's really hard to
yeah.
kind of put somebody into a single box.
Well, and I'm not even so much talking about red or blue, left, right, any of that kind of stuff. What I'm really talking about is like kind of like policy, and when
Mhm.
the government like when the government
Fiscal
has the
policy.
levers and they pull on it, right? Like
Yeah.
they push the lever way this way or they pull it way back. Like you look at, I mean, let's use the rates uh, as an example, right? Like
Hmm.
they just lowered the rates really fast, and then when inflation got crazy, they're like, "Whoa, hang on!" And they just started raising rates really fast. And despite that, you had all these economists and accountants and all these people way smarter in financials than me sitting there going, inflation's all, it tends to lag. The indications tend to lag. Like raise, wait a little bit, and it was like, no, every quarter,
Yeah.
raise.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah, man. What was it? Summer of 21 when we were
yeah,
getting those like 75 basis point increases like every single month. It's like, oh my God, this is crazy.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'd like to see something. I'd like to see him sit down for a second and think about, like what's a nice middle ground that we can
Well,
deploy
like, wait,
and
I
see
think
how
the
that works,
Fed
right?
is meeting again December 1st, right? Or is it December 10th or something like that?
I don't know.
So I would be, because they held, right? They paused for the November 1st meeting on the rate hike. So
Yeah,
I would not be surprised if we pause again, seeing how this, the CPI and all the other kind of those reports came out later. I would not be surprised to see that they just wait another month and kind of see how things are going. And if they are continually trending in the right direction, I think we might see a rate decrease, like 25 basis points sometime early next year. Maybe, I mean, I think the consensus is around like June or something like that. But I
yeah,
think that, if everything is still trending downwards, in order to stop it from trending downwards so quickly, they need to reduce the rate. So I'm
yeah,
hopeful to see everything is still continuing to drop.
yeah. I'll leave. We're running on time here, but I'll leave you with this one thing. And Vitali knows that I'm a little bit of like a stickler for details on words, and he just mentioned that they said, a rate decrease by June. And I'm starting to see more and more of that similar sentiment, but the word at least is in there. It's the words at least in there. It's like we expect to see at least one rate decrease by June. So
Mm.
they were saying by June, now they're saying at least. So it's starting to sound like they're thinking
Ah,
we may start to see them sooner and multiple before mid next year. So
come on, baby. I'm ready.
yeah, let's hope, right? We can
Let's
hope.
hope. All right. All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining again. Appreciate you. And we will see you next week.
Yeah.
Peace.